भूर्भुवस्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ भूर्भुवस्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ भूर्भुवस्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः.
Sairam, from Repale, Baba went to the town of Eluru, where at the Gita Bhavan he had to install two life size marble idols of Radha and Krishna. He was accorded a reception which Baba felt was too extravagant. He chided the organizers. Whoever has heard of the master of a household being received into his home by his children with fireworks and flags and pageantry and pomp? Baba created for the rite of installation the nine gems as well as a mystic cryptogram on metal which can ward off evil forces from the eight directions. He said that Radha and Krishna formed the Prakriti Purusha duo, creation and the creator, patent and the latent. Radha is the Adhar or basis for the Dhara, continuous stream of Aradha, worship. That is to say, Radha is the created universe which has to be used by man for discovering the divinity immanent in it, the divinity that is revealed as beauty, truth, and goodness, as Sat, Chit, and Ananda, as Satyam, Shivam, and Sundaram. Back in Bangalore in December, Baba inaugurated a society of Sanatana social workers. He said, "The word Sanatana in the name of your society has brought me here today. You, you are all Sanatana, eternal, though you believe you are Nutana, new. In India, the science of recognizing the reality of man, his glory, his divinity, has been taught from ancient times. Only those who have learned this science deserve to be the children of this land. The others, though they are born here, are essentially aliens." At Bangalore, as well as later at Prashant Nilayam, he assured people that the Astagraha which is the conjunction of eight planetary bodies, which by its imminence was darkening weak minds with clouds of fear, boded no evil. He said no additional calamity will come about. Consequent on the conjunction, in fact, the confusion existing now will become a little less. When the avatar has come, he asked, "Why shiver in dread at imagined dangers? Believe me," he declared, "nothing will happen. No, there is no danger at all." And as Baba willed, nothing happened. On the holy day of Shivaratri 1962, which fell on the 4th of March, which happens to be today as well, Baba advised the thousands who had witnessed the emergence of two golden lingas from him. "Why do you discuss and debate among yourselves about my nature, my mystery, my miracle, my reality? Fish cannot gauge the sky. The gross can grasp only the gross. The eye cannot see the ear, though it is so near. When you cannot reach down to your own reality, why waste time trying to explore the essence of God? You are like a Telugu audience sitting through a Tamil picture or a Malayali sitting through a Japanese picture. The nuances, the subtler significance, the deeper meanings and interrelationships, the inner patterns of the fabric are beyond your understanding. Sit through the entire film, master the language and the technique, watch earnestly and vigilantly, and try to imbibe the meaning of every gesture, act, and word. Then you may know me a little." Festivals at Prashant Nilayam afford the people the chance to hear the discourse of pundits learned in the science of spiritual disciplines and to meet brothers and sisters who have experienced Baba's might, majesty, and mystery. They turn to their homes full of inspiration derived from the soul strengthening discourse of Baba, wiser, sadder, and often purer in habits and mental impulses. Many among them stay on for the chance of the precious interview with Baba. Therefore, Baba is engaged for hours on end, morning, noon, and evening, in calling in and conversing with thousands who keep on at the Nilayam until they are thus favored and blessed. It's a clear sign of his grace that he thus keeps himself busy with our petty trivialities and pestering desires, though in the discourses he gives, he is advising man to give up the demeaning attachment to the physical and the secular. He knows that longer exposure to his glance and grace will wean us away sa- wean us away into sadhana and success. Baba left for Tirupati after most of the people praying for interviews has been satisfied. It was the Tyagaraja festival that drew him there. Had not Tyagaraja, a singer saint, who was born in 1847, appeared in a dream and directed Sri Naga Ratnamma, his incomparable disciple, to I can't see beyond that to proceed sorry to proceed to Venkatgiri so that she could have darshan of the Lord whom she adored. Nagaratnama had gone wondering who the Lord was. She saw Baba there. That explains Baba's statement in this discourse: I come often to this festival, for I feel it is a part of the task for which I have come. Tyagaraja had given up attachment to sensory pleasure. He had discovered the supreme joy of inner contemplation. He expressed that joy in moving musical notes, in simple, sincere phrases in songs that thrilled the heart and illumined the intelligence. Tyagaraja knew the secret of surrender. Without surrender, man can have no liberation. Cross out the I, and you are free. How to kill the I? Place it at the feet of the Lord, saying, You, not I, and you are free from the burden that's crushing you. Dasara 1962. On the 29th of September, the first day of the 10 days festival, while hoisting the Prashanti flag on the Nilayam, Baba declared, At Prashanti Nilayam, every day is festival day. Every moment is a holy moment. As the saying goes, Nitya Kalyanam Pachatoranam. Perpetual festivity, perpetually green festoons. During that Dashami, Baba explained in clear, unmistakable ways his task, which he defined as Veda Samrakshana, Vidvat Poshana, and Dharmastapana, which are preservation of the Vedas, fostering of the scholarship, and establishment of righteousness. All three are interdependent. The Vedas are the basis of Dharma, the Vidvans are the instruments. Dharma is the panacea for illness of mankind. In the Gita, Lord Krishna had affirmed that he embodies himself and incarnates among men in order to fulfill the task of Dharma Stapana. The assurance then, the fulfillment now. Let us keep our eyes open and bright to bear witness to the wonders of the Advent. Chapter 3. The Task. I have come for that very purpose, for Vedic revival. It shall be done. I will do it. Wherever you are, you will know of it. The world will share that joy, that light. Baba visited the foremost Shaivite shrine of India, Varanasi, and the foremost Vaishnava shrine, Badrinath, in 1961, in order to infuse spiritual power in those dynamos of grace. At Varanasi, he created a unique jewel to be placed on the idol of Vishweshvara, declaring that it has the mystic might to charge that symbol of the Lord with divine potency. At Badrinath, He drew un, from under the present Narayana image a Netralinga, which according to him was brought from Mount Kailasha and ceremonially installed there by no less a person than Shankaracharya about 1200 years ago. This Netralinga, when it emerged at the call of Baba, created a chapter in history. A linga as the basis of the celebrated Vaishnava shrine was a welcome reminder of the basic harmony of Shaivites and Vaishnavites. Tradition has it that the present Narayana idol at Badrinath was thrown by alien hands into the Alakananda river, and after a long and strenuous asceticism, Shankaracharya was awarded with the revelation that it was sunk in the Narada Kund of that river. Shankaracharya recovered it and installed it at its present site. Therefore, when Baba announced that the Netralinga was the original nucleus, which had to be energized by him with suitable rites and ceremonial ablutions, with sacred waters of Gangotri, golden bilva leaves, and the tummi flowers, which Baba miraculously procured quickly on spot, even the trustees of Badrinath temple were pleasantly surprised. Baba spoke of the linga as being one of the five lingas which Shankaracharya brought from Kailash and installed in India, and so the wonder grew. Earnestness to know more of this divine mission of Shankara was aroused in many. Those who knew him accepted the accuracy of this exalted origin of the linga, which they were privileged to see for some precious minutes on that never to be forgotten day. Saligrama Srikanta Shastri was one of those who were afflicted by this earnestness to discover the authenticity. He had studied the Shankara Vijaya, the classical biography of Shankaracharya. He sought to know the origin of the lingas that had been installed by Shankaracharya in the monasteries he had founded. In the reply he received from the Sringeri Mutt, the monastery established by Shankaracharya amidst the mountains of western Mysore, he was told that mention was made of these lingas in the Shivarahasya Mahi, Mahitihas, Mahaitihas, I think, Mahaitihas, a book which he was able to get after elaborate research from the library of a Vedic college at Varanasi. In the 16th chapter of the ninth section of this book, it is said that Lord Shiva welcomed Shankara at Kailash and blessed him with the words, "You are marked out for the establishment in the world of the true teaching of the Vedas, namely Advaita. Spend 32 years of your earthly existence spreading this faith and overwhelming those who decry or deny it. Accept these five lingas that I am giving you now. Worship them with the Panchakshari and with the Shatarudrabhisheka. Offer the sacred bilva leaf and ash and recite the holy pranava. Complete your three tours of victory, dispelling the darkness of Dvaita, and then install these lingas from this thrice holy Kailasha, marked by the effulgence of the crescent, named Yoga, Bhoga, Vara, Mukti, and Moksha, in sacred sites chosen by you before you shed this mortal frame at Kanchipuram. So, the story of the linga at Badrinath was authentic. The Shankara Vijaya of Anandagiri mentions that one of the lingas was installed at Nilakanta Kshetra, which reminds us of the snow clad Nilakanta Parvata, the queen of Himalayas behind Badrinath, resplendent in its brilliant purity. There is a temple at Badrinath called the original Kedareshwara. The legend says that Vishnu discovered that Badri was a fine place for tapas, but finding that it was already under occupation by Shiva, he resorted to a stratagem to take possession of it. He assumed the form of a child and started wailing aloud. So Parvati took up the forsaken baby and fostered it in spite of the remonstrances of Shiva. Some days later, when Shiva and Parvati had gone to the river, the child assumed its real form. Vishnu insisted on staying at the place so that the divine pair had to seek many miles off for residence, namely the modern Kedarnath. This legend indicates that the Badri shrine was originally Shaivite and later became Vaishnavite. The Kailasa Linga must have been there from the very beginning, even when the Narayana image was installed on the holy spot. These surprises arise in our minds when we delve into the history of the Linga, which Baba revealed as having been the initial spiritual nucleus of Badri. Whether as Nilakanta Kshetra or as Kedaram, the site where the Narayana temple is existing now was blessed with a linga by Shankaracharya. This is certain. We can only offer our homage to reverential awe. We can only offer our homage of reverential awe to the unpredictable depth of Baba's divine awareness when we recapitulate the story of the Badrinath Linga. In pursuance of the same mission of heightening the spiritual potency of the great shrines of India, Baba visited Kashi and Badri of peninsular India too, to wit Sri Salem and Pandharpur. At Sri Salem, which he visited on the 5th of January 1963, he said, "This shrine has consoled and comforted thousands and thousands of pious persons year after year for centuries. Shankaracharya was here and he sang of the holiness of this place and the calm he enjoyed here. He has installed a chakra here, which I may tell you is in a small cave by the side of the Pasala Ganga." He added, "The atmosphere of the holy places should improve. The attitude of the monks who are the custodians of the places requires drastic correction. This will be done by me as part of Dharma Stapana, the task which I have come to fulfill." Sri Salem is a shrine saturated over the centuries with deep devotion of mystics like Akka Mahadevi and nation builders like Shivaji. Baba revealed the inner significance of the names by which the Lord and his consort Mallikarjuna and Brahmaramba are worshipped at Sri Salem. This too was something new, a gift from Baba to generations of votaries. Arjuna means white, pure, without blemish. Mallika means spotlessly white jasmine flower. So Mallikarjuna is Shiva of the snowy peak Kailasha, pure, cool, resplendent with the sacred ash spread all over. He is the fragrant flower that draws the Amba consort, the Shakti aspect, and the Brahmara, called Brahmara, the bee, which is attracted spontaneously by the honey of grace. She is the true representative of the ardent devotee, and Mallikarjuna is the purest conception of the grace showering God who yields to sincere entreaty. While inside the innermost shrine, Baba showered on Mallikarjuna golden tumme, Lucas linifolia flowers, which he created on the spot by a wave of his hand. That was the ceremonial rite of multiplying the potency and improving the sanctity of the focus of worship. Pandharpur and the shrines of Panduranga and Rukumai have woven themselves into the history of Marathas and Kannadigas of the millions and of millions of others by the inspiration they imparted for centuries to a long line of saints, mystics, and poets famous for the songs that emerged from their ecstatic experience. Purandar Das, the great itinerant singer of Panduranga's glory, was a Kannada saint. Tukaram and a host of other stalwart servants of God were from the Maharashtra country. Even while a boy, Baba had gathered a band of comrades at Puttaparthi village who danced and sang of the joy derived from a pilgrimage to Pandharpur. to witness the shrine of Panduranga Vittal. He had composed many captivating Telugu songs for his comrades to sing. Some of them glorified the Lord who blessed the devotees of Pandharpur. Some detailed the route to be followed. Some described the travails of the long journey. Some expressed the thrill of the exhausted pilgrims when they had the first glimpse of the temple from afar. A divine design, an indescribable kinship, was drawing Baba towards Pandharpur since his childhood. At last, Baba visited the shrine with a number of devotees from Maharashtra on 13th June 1965. He stood silent for a few minutes before Panduranga the Vittal, whose vision he himself had often vouchsafed to those who earn and see that form in him. And then he moved on to the shrine of the consort Rukmani, the Shakti of the Lord, and urged by a quick, irrepressible memory, he created a Mangala Sutra and placed it around the neck of the goddess. A page from the Bhagavata came alive during that moment. Besides these temples, Baba also visited the and intensified the sanctity of the temple of Giridhari at Brindavan and of Ramachandra at Ayodhya in Uttar Pradesh and Bhadrachalam and Mahanandi in Andhra Pradesh. The resuscitation of the holy places where millions gather to draw solace and peace is, is only one of the many means of Dharma Stapana. The repositories of that Dharma, the interpreters of that Dharma had to be inspired to a greater awareness of their responsibility. The twin objects of Vidvat Poshana and Veda Samrakshana, fostering of scholarship and preservation of the Vedas, can be gained only by drawing the pundits of the land into the circle of his grace. Like all acts of Baba, this shower of grace came about in a quiet, spontaneous manner, no one noticing the grand design or the harvest of precious grain. The deltaic region of the Godavari basin is even now the home of classical learning in Andhra Pradesh, though the scholars who are struggling to keep the flag of Vedic learning flying are finding it hard to brave the buffeting of economic distress and social neglect. When the devotees of Bama suggested that a yaga be included as one of the functions he might attend when he visited the East Godavari district, Baba replied that they could as well celebrate the yaga at Prashant Nilayam itself during Dasara, when thousands from all over India could have the thrill of witnessing it. Lists of qualified ritualists and reciters, pandits and shastris were sent to him. But when Baba saw that they were all selected from Konasima, the Delta area only, he set them aside with a remark that his Sima area is not Konasima only. It was Vedasima, all areas where the Vedas are revered. So the lists were revised, and the Vedic scholars and pundits were invited from Benares, Bangalore, and Hyderabad, besides the contingent from the Godavari basin. When they started from their villages, these savants did not know how epoch making the journey was, both of their own lives and for the life of the country and its culture, for each one returned home vastly richer in faith, more firmly established in courage, more steadfast in loyalty to the Vedas, which were the source of sustenance for himself as well as for the people. The yaga was called Veda Purusha Saptaha Jnana Yajna, and it consisted of two sections. The morning sessions of 7 days of Atirudra Homa, which with all its complementary rites, and evening sessions of Jnana Yajna, where distinguished exponents of the Vedas explained to the vast gathering the meaning and the significance of the spiritual scriptural rites. Since the festival had to highlight the efficacy of the Vedic injunctions, Baba said that the scrupulous care Baba said that scrupulous care should be taken to observe them all down to the minutest detail. Therefore, the number, size, and the situation of the pillars of the Yajna Mandap, the number and shape of the sacrificial pits, the location of the shrines of subsidiary deities like the Yoginis, the Vastupurusha, the Kshetrapalas like Abhayankara, and the Navagrahas were all correctly fixed. The Kusa grass seeds for the participants were prepared in accordance with the do's and the don'ts that the Shastras prescribe. The materials for the sacrifice, like ghee, prepared from cow's milk, earth from ant hills, and from royal equestrian stables, and royal elephant stables and royal palace enclosures. The banyan tree twigs, the spoons made of special wood, were all collected under his personal supervision. Altogether, 226,270 spoonfuls of ghee were offered during the 7 mornings and into the sacrificial fire, with the concurrent invocation of appropriate name of the Lord, describing one among his manifold facets. The yaga was certain to promote, according to the Vedas, the welfare and peace of the world. Shanti kamastu homayet. Those who desire the establishment of peace have to do this sacrifice, says the Vedas.
Thank you, Brother Srinivas, for the beautiful rendition. Sister Vivasta Sairam, you may continue here.
Yeah, loving Sairam. Can you hear me well, Pratyush?
Yes, sister.
Okay. May I ask you to just increase the font if it's possible?
Yeah, sure. I think.
Yeah, I can start. Maybe you can find meanwhile. Yeah.
Okay, sure, sister.
Baba, in one of his discourses during the week, referred to the derision with which even many Hindus react when they see so much ghee being poured into the fire. He spoke of such critics as dwellers in the realm of cash books, persons who clamor for jars of ghee and bundles of fuel rather than the more precious and the more lasting joy having invoked and pleased the gods. The very performance of an ancient honored rite gives a satisfaction that cannot be expressed in terms of cash. These questioners have consumed hundreds of bags of rice since birth, and they have drunk post of ghee so far. Let me ask them whether they have had a single day of happiness themselves, or whether they have been able to give a single day of joy to their kith and kin. But this yaga gives great joy to many. It gives peace and joy to the world. I and my people are delighted. That is enough compensation. When ghee is poured into the fire, those who do not know or believe the Vedas says it is a waste. Those who do not know agriculture may cry that casting seeds in the furrow is a colossal waste. They do not know that the tiller will get the grain back 100-fold. This is also like that. Prayers reach the addressee only when they are duly stamped with mantras and dropped into sacrificial fire. This is a science as much as any other. The foremost reciter of the Vedas in Andhra Pradesh, a personal honored by his colleagues as Veda Samrat, undisputed master of the Vedas, Brahmasri Cherukumalli Kameshwara Ghanapati, was invested with the office of Sarvadhyaksha, overall supervisor of the Yaga, and a Pandit in the Jnana Vedanta and Jyotisha schools of thought. Brahmasri Kuppa was installed as the officiator. Sri Uppuluri Ganapati Sastri, a septuagenarian scholar one of the very few in India today who can expound every syllable of the Veda in conformity with authentic commentaries, on whom learned societies have showered titles like Amnayartha Vachaspati, Vedabhyasa Visharada, and Vedabhyasa Shalankara. Vedabhyasalankara was chosen as the president of Jnana Yajna section of the Yaga. Sri Ganapati Shastri has started that in his 50 years of experience of Vedic yagas and yajnas, he has not had the privilege of witnessing a scrupulously correct yaga which could pass the most rigorous tests of orthodoxy. As a matter of fact, the discourses he gave every evening on the significance of the rites were punctuated with sincere gratitude to Baba for evening on the significance of the rites were punctuated with sincere gratitude of Baba for his upholding the Vedic injunctions. He quoted Vedic mantras in support of what looked like casual acts of Baba. Baba's reference to the Ritviks as gods, his distribution of white silk clothes to the reciters of the Vedas and the red silk clothes to those engaged in other rites, and even the order in which he presented award to the participant at the end of the yaga, Baba was the Veda Purusha. He acknowledged. Baba himself declared, "Do not be misled. I am not the person performing the sacrifice. I am the person receiving the sacrificial offerings and awarding the rewards." And he gave proof too. On the penultimate day of the yajna, he announced, "Tomorrow, when the valedictory offering is poured into this sacrificial fire, I want each one of you to resolve with your will that you are pouring into the flames all the evil in you, all the egoism, and degrading attachments, all the habits that drag you down." Many who had equipped themselves with gold and gems, silk and sandalwood in order to be ready to put these precious things into the fire, as it is, and it is as is the wont in all yajnas, were awakened by this call into the knowledge of significance of the yajna. Baba made also another announcement. Tomorrow, at the moment of valedictory offering, you will be given the darshan of Yajna Purusha, the person who accepts the yajna. True to the promise, Baba ascended the Yajna Vedi at the very moment. He granted darshan to the 10 of thousands who aesthetically acclaimed him as the person who accepts the yajna. It must be mentioned that the Kamandalu water vessel of Shirdi Sai Baba, which miraculously found its way into Prashanti Nilayam, was placed on the Yajna Mandap to hold the ceremonial water used for the most of the mystic rites. The continuity of the two says was thus symbolized. When the officiator required images of the Navagrahas for installation, Baba created them by a wave of his hand. When he held out his hand for a plate of gold to be deposited with the relevant mantras in the water vessel, Baba made it on the spot and gave it to him. So too, when the time for the valedictory offering approached, he created the 9 gems and dropped them in the plate held out before him. The Pandits, as well as the thousands who attended the yaga, had also another glimpse into his divinity. When Baba one evening came down from his seat and, moving out of the roofed area, looked up at the glowing sky, which was bent on a heavy downpour of rain. As at Shirdi, Baba must have rebuked the skies and said, "Stop your fury and be calm," for the sky was stunned into sudden calm and clarity. The yaga achieved many results. chief among them being the transformation it brought about in the outlook of the Pandits of the land. Many of them came infected with the prejudice that Baba was only an adept in magic, a hardly prejudice that had unfortunately kept Sishupala, Duryodhana, and millions of others away from grace in previous eras. Ganapati Shastri confesses that he too was thus affected, but as a result of the constant association with him for many days during the Jnana Yajna and observation of the ever fresh and unique examples of his glory, I realized that I was incapable of gauging his reality, for he was undoubtedly the incarnation of God. Darshana Bhushana Chatustantri Kolluri Somasekhara Sastri, who had a similar experience, began addressing him soon as Bhagaval Leelavatara, Leela Manusha Vigraha, meaning that he was indisputably divine. Vidvat Kavi Vemparla Suryanarayana Sastri revealed before a large gathering of devotees that he had refused to place faith in the theory that Baba was an incarnation of the Lord. He was not convinced when many people told him that their lives were saved by the vibhuti that Baba had materialized and blessed them with. Even when he was his friend, Sri Kameshwara Ghanapati had shown him his gifts that Baba had created and given him at Rajamandri. He had turned a blind eye. But before the yajna concluded, he confessed that the conviction that Baba was Krishna come again was rooted deep in me. Advaita Vedanta Shiromani, Mimamsa Visharada, Mallavarjula Venkata Subba Sastri of Warangal, who was also a doubter, turned into an ardent advocate of the avatarhood of Baba. He said that the Vishwarupa Darshanam, vouchsafed by Krishna to Arjuna, could be dismissed by the cynics as a major magic performance. If the Lord presented himself before them, they would attribute it to an optical defeat or describe it as an apparition pictured by feverish imagination. But he applied the various tests prescribed by the Sastras and concluded that Baba was Bhagavad Avatara Murti. And so he exhorted all to worship him with steady devotion and sincere love, to accept him as the teacher and the guide, and by these means to save themselves. This revolution in the reactions of the Pandits was in conformity with the declaration of Baba himself. For he has said that only those conversant with Vedas and Shastras can delve into his reality to any appreciable extent. No wonder, therefore, that the 100-odd scholars of scriptures that basked for 7 days in the sun of his grace, decided without any extraneous prompting to arrange a unique function on the 10th day, which they named Tribhuvana Vijayam, trump over 3 worlds. When asked whose trump they were arranging to celebrate, the answer was Baba's. The Vedas and other scriptures, along with ancient science and disciplines by which they could understood and practiced, like grammar, the sixth system of philosophy, philology, phonetics, theology, were to approach God on his throne and beseech him to glance at them lovingly, so that they may grow strong again and afford shelter to mankind. They pleaded that Baba must be on the throne and proposed that they would approach him with pleas on behalf of the sciences of the spirit. And Baba agreed. When some objected, Baba, they are asking you to act a role. They can be roles, but you are God. Baba intercepted. But I am acting a role now in this human form. The functionless and the role-less has come, taking on the function and assuming a role. A strange thing had happened. Unawares, in preparation of the Tribhuvana Vijayam, a devotee had a dream in Bombay a few weeks previously. She saw Baba as Narayana on the primeval serpent Sesha couch. So she got ready a magnificent serpent couch in wood, complete with coils and hood, and her kinsman brought it to Prashant Nilayam in a motor vehicle specially reshaped for the purpose. The Pandits were happy that the very thing they needed to make their function realistic, the serpent horn, had come through the will of Baba. Let Ghanapati Shastri himself describe the scene. When Baba reclined on that Seshatalpa with the Yajna Mandapa, Yaga Mandapa as the background, each Pandit and Shastri, who was a master of one chosen branch of scriptural lore, stood before him and represented as previously arranged the importance of his field of knowledge and the urgent need to foster it. Everyone saw Mahavishnu in Vaikunta reclining on the Sesha serpent, and Brihaspati and all the gods, sages, displaying their scholarship and attainments of his glorification and praying to him to save the Shastras from decline. It was indeed the Devasabha, the divine darbar, and when we forgot all about ourselves in the supreme joy in which we were submerged. It was an occasion to be personally gone through and experienced. The joy we felt cannot be communicated to others by even Brihaspati, the all-knowing preceptor of the gods, or by the four-faced Brahma, or the six-faced Kumaraswamy, or the thousand-tongued Adisesha. To the Sarvathyaksha of the Yaga, Sri Kameshwara Ghanapati, it was a fruitful revelation. He came, he saw, and he was conquered. He left his native home in the far of Godavari Delta. He turned his face away from his village set in the midst of coconut gardens he cherished, and stayed on at Prashantanilayam, where he found the Veda Purusha, whom he had been extolling with mantras for 60 years. The Jnana Yajna, or evening discourse, provided an opportunity for the Vedic scholars to fathom the extraordinary scholarship of Baba. Ghanapati Shastri expresses the sense of admiration of the learned Pandits, thus a part of the thrill that the listeners derived from the discourse of Baba, the reputed masters of the ancient disciplines who had gathered renown by lecturing to many vast gatherings throughout the land, were themselves struck with the wonder at the depth and the width of his knowledge. Mallavarchula Venkata Subbarama Sastri analyzed the reactions of his colleagues thus. In all his speeches, there was not the slightest deviation from the Shastras, nor the faintest whisper contrary to the trend of their teachings. And the subjects he handled, they were indeed the most profound. The methodology of exposition was in strict conformity with the canons laid down in the scriptures. There was no repetition of argument, no irrelevant digression, no jeering criticism, no jarring adulation, no overemphasis. Kalluri Venkata Subramanya Dikshit reacted similarly. The nectarine of his love filled every word of his parables and explanations. It was overpowering grace that made him pity the poor understanding of the listeners and search for tiny, tasty stories that could clarify the profundities. He was unraveling the goals he desired to picture. In short, the scholars found in Baba the mastermind that was guiding and shaping their town. But it was not all wonder and admiration. The Pandits were made aware of the worth of the treasure that they were preserving. They were told that the reason for their poverty and for the neglect, which was their need, lay in themselves. They were induced to examine their own lives and beliefs, their own attitudes and prejudices, their own preferences and foibles. You may ask why Pandits and Vedic scholars are passing through such hard times. They are mostly hungry, ill clad, and homeless. No one comes forward to join Vedic schools. I shall tell you why they have come to this pass. They have themselves lost faith in Vedas. Let them be fixed in that faith. Then the Vedas will make them happy. If the Veda cannot make a man happy, what else can? Asked Baba. He filled the Brahmins with faith in what they carried in their heads. He also condemned the ignorant sneer which branded the Vedas as clever stratagems by which the Brahmin priest ensured their positions and intermediaries between man and God and won superiority in social hierarchy. Look at the regimen of the restrictions and regulations, the hundreds of do's and don'ts limiting freedom of life and limb, which these Brahmins have imposed on themselves in order to promote the good of society and of the world and for their own spiritual uplift. Do not dismiss them as superstitions. No one will bind themselves from dawn to dusk and dusk to dawn with such drastic rules and limits for mere fun. They had hard limitations and on daily conduct, social contacts, and economic effort. It requires great courage, determination, and faith to hold to these rules vital and put them into practice. Honor those that have faith in that ideal. Their adherence to those ideals has been a tremendous value to India and the world, for it has preserved the only culture that can save mankind. I know the sincerity with which they have been leading the hard life, for I have been with every one of them in their rites and rituals since years. Baba said this transformed the hostile attitude of many towards the Brahmin community and an attitude fostered by pseudo political fears and prejudices caused by the ignorance of the sacrifice the community had been practicing for centuries. This was no ordinary yajna that Baba presided over. It was a revival, it was a revelation, it was a revolution, a resurgence. It was a symbol of cultural renaissance. For Baba explained that the Vedas were essentially for all mankind, that sacrifice or yajna was the sign and the secret of all life. He advised the participants to recapture the ancient ascetic simplicity. He explained that in the mantras, the glory and majesty of the one God is visualized in various contexts. He elaborated on the symbolism of the sun and the moon as guiding the inner and outer vision of man. He spoke of the tonic effects of the very sound of Vedic mantras. They charmed away the evil in man. I want to prove to you and to those others that a yajna celebrated according to the Vedic formula will certainly grant the fruits promised by the Vedas. He said the Vedas belong to those who value them, who are moved by the thirst for the spiritual upliftment, who desire to practice them, who have faith that they will benefit by that practice. No one else has the right to talk patronizingly of the Vedas or disparage them, for all such talks is hollow and insincere, he warned. 40 days later, on the auspicious occasion of his birthday, when thousands had gathered to celebrate it in his presence, Baba invited the incomparable Amartya Vachaspati Uppuluri Ghanapati Sastri to inaugurate the Satyasai Veda Shastra Patashala, the Academy for Vedic and Sanskrit Study at Nilayam. He said the Vedas are in need of revival. We have to prevent the goats from nibbling at the sprouts. I have come for the sake of Dharma Sthapana. Vedokhila Dharma Moolam. Vedokhilo Dharma Moolam. Vedas are the root of Dharma. Vedic scholars have to grow in numbers for the sake of the promotion of Dharma. So long as Vedic scholars are produced and honored, Vedas will remain green in the hearts of man. This is the real Dharma Sthapana. My task is to open your eyes to the glory of the Vedas and to convince you, and Vedic injections, when put into practice, will yield the promised results. My prema towards the Vedas is matched only by my prema towards humanity. These boys, he said, pointing to the first batch of boys that was enrolled, will grow into strong, stalwart pillars of Sanatana Dharma. They will be the guides and leaders of this land in the days to come. To save it from vain follies and wild passions, you may say they are only 20 in numbers now, but as a vast country as administrated by a cabinet of 20 ministers, this band of students will be ample for the work I have in view. Parents who have sent them to Patashala have a reason to be happy, for these boys will become lesson gems, spreading Vedic splendor and Shastric light. I shall take care of them more lovingly than any mother. Then the distinguished Vedic scholar taught the boys the correct pronunciation of inaugural Rik from the Yajurveda, Ishveta, and wished the Patashala all success. Baba takes great delight in moving among the little boys and watching their progress. He instills hope and courage into them. He pays special attention to their health, discipline, and character. He insists on outer and inner cleanliness. Baba encourages them to seek the meaning and purpose of the riks they recite. For as he has often remarked, they should not get transformed. They should not get transformed into mere tape recorders of the Vedas. They must charge themselves with the devotion, the rectitude, the detachment, and the sense of kinship with truth which the Vedas teach. He insists also on all-round progress of the boys, so that they may grow into helpmates of the downhearted and distressed. In recent years, he has himself written musical plays brimful of the noblest scriptural teachings on Markandeya, Sakkubai, and Radha Bhakti. The first depicts in easy, sweet Telugu the story of Markandeya, who defied death and won immortality as a star in space. The second deals with simple Saint Sakku, whose devotion to Panduranga was so intense that the Lord himself took her form and served her husband and mother-in-law in order to release her from her home for the pilgrimage to Panduranga temple. The third reveals the deep significance of spiritual yearning, which filled the entire being of Radha for Krishna. Baba himself selected the boys for the cast, assigned the parts, supervised the rehearsals, decided the stage fittings and curtains, and trained them to sing the many songs he composed. He designed the costume for every role in every scene, and on the days when the plays were presented, Baba spent hours in the green room directing the makeup and encouraging each little boy by a soft pat with his loving palm. When they moved out towards the flood-lit stage, where 10 of 1,000 greeted them with loud applause. For about a month, the boys had the unique good fortune of being inspired by his vigilant prema during rehearsals. Since every participant imbibed the entire text, whatever be his individual role, all the words from Baba's divine pen had sunk into the hearts of all the boys. Baba was thus transforming them into proper instruments for the fulfillment of the task for which he has come. The Patashala is bound to grow into a great banyan tree, affording shade and shelter to countless people caught in the desert sands of the greed, hate, and despair. Baba saw that the rampant decline in private and public morals were due to the neglect of the discipline prescribed in the Vedas. The Brahmin, Kshatriya, and the Vaishya Varnas are burdened with greater obligations than the rest of the community because they are initiated into spiritual life too. This rite of initiation is called Upanayana, leading near, that is to say, taking the boy near the Guru and spiritual presbyter of Brahmopadesha, guidance to the Brahman. This has to be done according to the Shastras by teaching of the Gayatri mantra before the boy evinces longing for sensory pleasures and thereby gets lost in the wilderness of transitory adventures. The Brahmin boy has to be initiated into the sacred mantra before he is 8 years old, Kshatriya before he is 11, and Vaishya before he is 12. Mantra Trayate through manana is that which saves through constant reflection on the meaning. But though these caste strictures still persist in varying degrees of strength throughout India, this great rite has suffered drastic decline. In many regions and families, it is postponed until as late as the marriage rite or completely overlooked. When thus the very spring of spiritual discipline is allowed to go dry, how can the call of the ancient ideals raise any response in the heart? Man should not be allowed to remain a beast caring only for feeding and breeding. Therefore, as a great step forward in the revival of Dharma, Baba announced that he will be granting members of three Varnas dedicating to a second birth the great chance of being initiated into spiritual life at Prashanti Nilayam. The devotees of Baba were thus aroused into a recognition of their primary duty to their children. They hastened to benefit from the offer. On February 3rd, 1963, when 35 boys were led near him and became brahmacharis, pilgrims on the path of Brahma realization, through the Shastric process of receiving the sacred Gayatri mantra. Baba declared, addressing the group, "You have come in this body, this respectile, respectacle, receptacle, in order to realize the glory that you really are. This body is the cocoon that you have spun round yourselves with the thread of your impulses and desires. Use it to grow wings so that you can escape from it. The Gayatri Mantra is a prayer to the universal intelligence to awaken the Dhi Shakti in you, your faculty of discrimination, of analysis and synthesis, so that you may realize who you are and why turning to the parents. And why? Turning to the parents, he said, "This is an important day in the history of Sanatan Dharma, for it is a great step in the restoration of Varnashrama Dharma. The study of Vedas is the highest learning, for it leads to the conquest of death itself. Today, these, your children, are set on the road to explore their inner realm and innermost reality."
Thank you, Sister Vasudha, for a beautiful rendition. Let us now conclude this session with Sai Gayatri and Samastaloka. ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वप्रचोदयात् ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वप्रचोदयात् ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वप्रचोदयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः Thank you all